Hello, welcome to the Disc of Truth. I'm Jono.
And I'm James.
And as you know, here at the Disc of Truth, we talk about everything and anything, and nothing is off the table. And just before we get going, if you have been enjoying what we've been doing, you leave a like, let us know in the comments below, and maybe consider subscribing to the channel, because we love to hear from you. But so today in episode 11.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we are going to in our last episode we discussed mental health, and that was quite a heavy episode. So we're going to do something a little lighter today in regards to what we talk about. So we were discussing recently, our favourite games, and what we've decided to do is not actually just do favourite games, but we're going to discuss our top 10 gaming franchises. Now, I've gone away and I've made a list. James has gone away and he's made a list, and we're going to compare our top 10s essentially. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get going. I'm going to hand over to James to give me his number 10. So we're basically going to do, James will tell me his 10, I'll say my 10, and then we're going to talk about why we like them, so on and so forth. And it'll be interesting to see if there's anything in the list, that we've put the same, where we've put them. So, okay. James, go ahead, number 10.
Okay, so number 10 for me, I actually picked the Gears of War franchise.
Ooh, interesting. Okay,
So,
I chose the Infamous series.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I've played Gears of War. I'll be honest with you. Spoiler alert: it's not on my list. Okay. But I haven't played all of them. I only played a few, so it wasn't enough. They're fantastic games though, absolutely amazing. But yeah, anyway, James, go ahead.
So, I mean, the reason why I put Gears of War on there is, I thought it was a really fun game, and it did capture my attention. It's one of the better third-person shooters out there, and it was a toss-up between this and Call of Duty, purely because that's what I used to play at college with my mates all the time. But Gears of War was definitely the better game. It had a story beyond, see this red dot, put this on someone's face and press a button and you win. So, I really enjoyed Gears of War, and the artwork was really, really cool. Gears of War was actually the first few figures and stuff I started collecting, because I've now got quite a lot of figures that I collect at home. So, I liked the artwork and the style and everything. It's got a cool universe to it. I quite liked it. And
yeah, it's a really I remember playing the first Gears of War I play. Right, here's a funny little anecdote for you. But was actually Gears of War 2. Right?
Okay.
But right up until the end of the game, I didn't know it was Gears of War 2.
Oh, right, okay.
Right. So I was playing the co-op with my older brother, and he'd bought it pre-owned. And there was a sticker over the 2, right? And that sticker... So we didn't see the 2, so we didn't know. So it was like, no wonder this game doesn't make any fucking sense, because we haven't played the first one. Still, anyway, it was a very, very fun game. So I chose Infamous.
Yeah,
right.
Which I have played the Infamous games. They're good. I can see why they'd be on your list.
They're really fun. They're just you just get to run around with superpowers. I mean, the first 2 you get to run around with electrical powers, and then the Second Son, special mention for Second Son, I think is genuinely the best one, in my opinion. But you start with this. Obviously, this episode is going to be full of spoilers, just to warn you right now. But you just get different powers in Second Son. You start with smoke, then you get neon. It's weird because you get, the powers aren't like your traditional powers either. Like who would have thought neon is a power? Like video is a power. Concrete, typically you'd think earth, but no, it's specifically concrete. And it doesn't just go into there are various other powers, but these powers aren't just traditional powers. They're just but it's really, really fun, and the whole karma system is quite interesting, and stuff like that. I will special mention for Shadows of Mordor.
Okay.
That very nearly made my list, but it didn't. But so that would have been number 10 if I hadn't chosen Infamous. But because just the Nemesis system it is a crying shame that nothing has ever been expanded on the Nemesis system. They made 2 games with it, and then it's dead in the fucking water. And that is such a fantastic system. And it's very sad that they didn't do it. Anyway, so number 10, interesting choice, number 10. I'm very intrigued to hear what is now your number 9.
Okay. So this surprised me that it's so low, if I'm honest, but there is a reason for it. Spyro the Dragon.
Oh, do you know, interesting. I put GTA.
Okay.
Yeah. So Spyro never crossed my mind, really. I mean, it was just so long ago that I played them. I played the remastered ones, but yeah, it just didn't. It didn't make my list. It didn't make the radar for my list, to be fair.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I still hold Spyro quite dear to me. It was, again, one of the first few games that I played back in the day. The reason why Spyro cannot get higher than that for me is because I only like 1, 2, and 3. Like, all the other stuff they've done are really bad games. Like, there's some truly awful Spyro games, and then it morphed into the Skylanders stuff. So it's... I only think the original trilogy is worth playing. That's why it's so low. But the original trilogy, to me, is still quite iconic.
Yeah, no, really, really good, to be fair. GTA, for me, is just one of those games that I kind of grew up with.
Yeah.
Have played them all. I will continue to play. I will get GTA 6 when it inevitably comes out in about 20 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those ones that just... It's iconic. I just remember nothing when I was a child, beating a hooker to death with a baseball bat in a game. Was just something that you did. It was like a rite of passage as a child of our generation to do that. And yeah, I mean I enjoyed the stories. I mean, GTA Online, I enjoyed playing with my friends, doing heists.
Yeah, that got
kind
really
of stuff.
good. The heists were good.
But yeah, just GTA was definitely big on my list there because I just remember it was just always really fun. And like, using the cheats, making flying cars, and then flying across the map in a tank because you could just constantly shoot backwards and it would keep you airborne and flying. And yeah, it was just really
do you
fun.
have a favourite Grand Theft Auto? Because there's quite a lot. I just want to ask that as a side note.
No, it's fair. I think it might be 4.
Okay.
I thought 4 was a bit darker and a bit grittier.
I need to go back to 4 because I didn't enjoy it at the time. But looking back, I think it's probably pretty good.
Yeah, because it was like... he was Nico Bellic was an immigrant, and I just thought like that was the whole building up from nothing. I mean, you do that a lot in GTA, but like that one just so it's probably 4, to be honest. Okay. Probably 4. Okay,
cool.
Number 8.
Number 8. I don't think this will be on your list. I don't think we've ever spoken about this series. Driver.
Yeah. Wow, you're going old school with this list, James.
Yeah. We get a bit newer towards the end, but Driver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Driver. God, yeah, no, we've never talked about this game. I remember it. But I don't think I ever played it. I think my brother did, but it wasn't really my kind of thing. For me, Xenoblade Chronicles.
I thought that would be higher for you, but okay.
Well, when you hear the rest of the list, you'll probably know why.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay, let's talk about Driver, because if I'm honest, I don't remember anything.
Okay. So I think I've played all but one of the Drivers, but I can say that I like the series because I've seen a lot of people say retrospectively that Driver 3 was awful, but I still love that game. I thought that was great. Driver 1, I still think stands up as a really solid driving game. Again, it was one of the first few driving games in that style that I'd ever played, and it hooked me.
Just to quickly interrupt you,
yeah.
was Was Driver the one with the insanely hard tutorial, or was that the Getaway?
Yes, so the one in the car park.
Yeah.
The one that makes me feel like I want to throw this out there actually, just so everyone on the internet seems to think that's the hardest thing in the world. If you can't get past that tutorial, don't bother playing the rest of the game, because the very finale mission, still to this day as an adult, I have not beaten without the no damage cheat on. The President's Run is the hardest mission I've ever come across in any game ever. So,
Damn.
but yeah, Driver was great. Driver 2 built on that perfectly. And I loved how open the world in Driver 3 was. And then they did switch it up in San Francisco. But I won't ruin it, but story on it was pretty good, actually. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the characters were pretty good. And it's just a fun franchise. I've always really enjoyed it. And for a car game, that it is an A to B sort of game. They've built a really great world, and it's quite gritty around it. It's really cool.
Fair play. So Xenoblade.
Yep.
For me, it's so for any of you who don't know, Xenoblade is a JRPG series. There is 3 in the Chronicles series, and they are just absolutely fantastic games. The worlds are visually beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The stories I love. I love the story of 2. My favorite story is 3. My favorite game is 2 in the series.
Okay.
So I prefer the combat in 2, and I really like the blade system for combat. But 3. So if I were to rank them in order of gameplay and whatever, it would be 2, 3, 1. Story, it would be 3, 2, 1. But it's just a fantastic series. Xenoblade 3, I absolutely loved. It's probably one of my favorite games this year. It was amazing. It was last year, I think, actually now. But it was amazing. It was incredible, and I highly recommend it for anyone who enjoys the series. But yeah, it was just so good. The characters are amazing. The world's amazing. The game just had me from start to finish. In all 3 of them, I struggled with Xenoblade 1 because I played 2 first. Because you don't even need to play them in order. You need to play 3 last, but you can play 1 and 2, and it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But yeah, they're just fantastic games in the series. I highly recommend them for anyone who's a JRPG fan, which you'll know from my list. I'm a big fan. So
Cool. Okay.
yeah. So number 7.
Yep.
So I'm going to tell you mine first this time. Okay.
Okay. Go on then.
Horizon.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah. So the Zero, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West. That franchise.
Okay. For me, number 7 is the Uncharted series.
I thought that might be I expected that to be higher.
Do you want to know something funny? That actually only came to my mind about 2 hours before recording, and I was like, oh yeah, that'll go on the list. And then that's where I kind of worked it in. I think, but it is a great series. There's not a single game that I've played that I didn't like. I don't think the first game, maybe the second game, holds up as well nowadays. But I think that's down to the fact that 4 is an honest-to-God masterpiece.
Yeah, I think the second one has probably one of the best like action sequences in terms of
is that the train
with the plane over the desert.
That's the.
Is it the second one? Or
that's the third.
Is it the third one?
Third one's the plane
Joe,
in
it's
the
been
desert.
so long.
Yeah,
when,
train through the snow is second, and then the third one's the plane.
Yeah, there's. Well,
I think that's
crazy.
the problem though, because when I bought it, I actually came quite late to the series, and I bought the trilogy pack and played them all through to the end. And as one very long, cohesive game, it feels pretty good. But 4, that I think it stands out on its own, so that's probably why it's not as high. But I did play the spin-off actually, where you play as the 2 female characters from 2 and 4. It's really bad that I've forgotten everybody's names now, but that was a really, really cool game. Actually, I'd recommend that.
Yeah, I've played them all. Other than my embarrassing memory when it comes to the action sequences, fantastic series. I can't fault you for that one at all. Very very good choices. Again, spoiler alert, it's not on my list. It didn't make it. Um, in fact, it didn't even cross my mind, to be honest. It's a fantastic series, but in terms of top 10 favourites, it's probably more like 12 or 13 for
So
me.
close
But
then.
yeah, so Horizon. Have you ever played Horizon? Just out of interest.
I haven't. It is on that very long list of games to play. It looks gorgeous. I've seen people play it, and it looks really good fun.
It is really, yeah, it's really really cool fun. Like when I remember watching back in the day when E3 was still a thing. I remember going round to my me and my friend would occasionally watch it together, or like we did for a few times. So we went round to my friends. It was the year that they announced Horizon, and we were watching it. And if it was one of those, like the ones I love the most in terms of like game reveals are when they start off on like I'm not a huge fan of CGI trailers, right? We started off and we were like, oh, it's a fucking CGI trailer again. It looks interesting, blah, blah, blah. And then it transitions into gameplay and we're like, yes, that's it. And I just remember watching a little bit of that gameplay and being like, it's fucking robot dinosaurs, man. Like, I was like, this is cool. And then when you get into the game and you learn about the world and whatever, it's really really interesting. It's really cool to learn the lore of the world and why the world has ended up the way it is and stuff like that. So it's yeah, really really cool series. And
Nice.
I mean, I played Forbidden West. I really enjoyed Forbidden West as well. I hope they make a third one. We'll see. Don't know. But I think there's a DLC for Forbidden West coming out, so I'll probably give that a play. But yeah,
Okay,
no,
cool.
really, really, really cool. So I highly recommend that series if you haven't played it. Um, right.
Number
So my
six.
my next one, I really struggled with this one. I was like, I should put this higher, but my list the higher ones, I was like, I can't really change them. Maybe I could have swapped around 5 and 6, but but
Okay.
anyway, what is your number 6?
Resident Evil.
Dragon Age.
Two very different games.
Very different games. So wait, hang on. Number 6 for you is Resident Evil.
Yeah.
That's a surprise. I definitely expected that to be higher. So I'm very, very intrigued now as to what your top 5 is. I can think of one,
Okay.
and I imagine because I haven't heard it, it's probably on my list as well. But we'll see. So okay. Tell me why it only got number 6 for you.
So again, like Spyro games, there's been some phenomenal games and there's been some absolute trash. Um, Anybody who's played Resident Evil 5 and 6, I think will understand what I'm talking about.
I enjoyed 5. Just saying.
But comparatively to the other ones, you see where I'm coming from. Um,
All right.
so I always want more, especially of the modern Resident Evils. The remakes and the Ethan Winters saga ones are really, really good. But I think the reason why it doesn't get higher for me is because once I've played them and done all the extras, I'm not like, oh, I've got to redo that. Like, when I've done it, I've done it. I need something new. There's not as much replayability for me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my favourite one was the Resident Evil 3 remake, and that was a very, very short game. So they're great for what they are, I suppose. There are some games on here that I've completed multiple times, and I'll go back to not doing anything new. But with the Resi ones, I kind of always have to have a goal. And Resi 4 remake has been the newest one that's come out. I haven't even platinumed that. I kind of just stopped. I enjoyed it, but yeah, I think that's why it has to be so low. They're phenomenal, but there are games coming later on that hold my attention better.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I remember playing Village, and once I beat it, I replayed the game, and I did it with just a knife. Um, I remember doing it just with just a knife, and I also did the run where you complete it in under 3 hours, or
Yeah.
in under however long it was, and I managed to do that, and then managed to do it with the knife. And after that, I was like, nah, like I can't really. I was tempted to play through it with in Village of Shadows mode, the hardest mode, but I was like, nah, I couldn't be bothered. Um, but Dragon Age, right?
Yeah.
Dragon Age is a fantastic series that is currently being hugely let down by BioWare. Because they're taking their sweet time. Then again, considering their last game was Anthem, which that was the game that taught me not to pre-order ever again. And since that day, um, it's been only a handful of times where I've broken the rule, only because I was absolutely dead set sure on the game, or it was a game that I was personally excited about, and I knew that regardless of whatever, I would buy it. Blah blah blah. So that was the game that taught me to not pre-order.
Okay.
Because I do know the story of Anthem, James.
I do, yeah.
It was a travesty, absolute travesty. That game had so much potential, and they just completely ballsed it up. They like, there's a story. Kotaku, Jason Schreider, did a story on it, and it's a fantastic read
Okay.
about what happened with BioWare and the whole history with its creation and production. So yeah, I highly recommend that. I'll pop a link to the article, because if I can find it, because it genuinely is a really interesting read. Anyway, so Dragon Age 1 is fantastic, the best one in the series. Dragon Age 2 is a bit shite, but still okay. Dragon Age 3 is okay, but it's a bit lackluster in terms of the main villain and story and whatever. But
Okay.
it's still quite cool. So Dragon Age 4, they have announced they're working on it. They've shown nothing other than some CGI shit. But Dragon Age 4 should be interesting, as long as BioWare don't fuck it up, which I haven't got my hopes very high at the moment. Definitely going into that one with a pinch of salt. But yeah, Dragon Age again. It's an RPG, not a JRPG. RPG. Really, really fun, interesting world. Really like the characters. The story's like gritty, dark. Just
Okay.
generally a really fun game to play. So
Okay.
highly recommend giving Dragon Age a try. Give Origins a try. If you enjoy it, if you like it. But yeah, really, 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 really good. So yeah, so Dragon Age is number 6 for me. Okay,
Nice. Halfway
number
point.
5,
Yeah.
halfway 5, top 5 now. Number
Yeah.
5 for you, James.
Going back to old school again, it's Crash Bandicoot.
Do you know, after you said Spyro, I thought that would be on your list.
Love
Um,
Crash.
yeah, so God of War for me.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I expected that on your list.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've played, I think, all of them.
Hmm.
All of the main series ones, at least. Or no, they all do tie into the stories and whatever. But I think I've played majority of them. I definitely played one. The old PS2 days and those ones, and then the new PS4, PS5 ones. So I've played most of them, if not all of them. I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, Fantastic series. Oh
Yeah.
my god! And then the I like. I'm just so the originals, the Greek ones are really fun, really fun. I mean, you are just you are a guy going after a god,
Hmm.
and the whole thing is fantastic. And then what they did in the PS4 into PS5 series was just phenomenal. I mean, special mention to the actual not shooting style, to the style they used for God of War PS4, the new one, not Ragnarok, the one before, where the entire game is one continuous shot.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. That was ridiculous,
Very
and it was
fluid. Very pretty.
it looked amazing. The game played amazing. The story was amazing, and then they went and hit it out of the fucking park for Ragnarok. And I won't go into spoilers because
Because I'm
James still
right
hasn't finished
I'm
it.
right at the end.
He's right at the end, and I'm not gonna lie, the story was so good, so good, and I can't. I want to say something else, but I'm not going to. And it was only in regards to my actual reaction to the story, but I'm not even going to say that. It was so good. God of War is a phenomenal series.
Yeah.
I personally hope they do not make any more. And if they do, base it on Atreus. But that's all I'm going to say, right? That's what I'm
Okay.
going to say. So,
I would have put God of War on my list, but I've only played the modern versions. I haven't played the originals, so I don't have the full story. But
okay.
the PS4 and then Ragnarok, they are phenomenal games, and I completely understand why there's so much love for that series. I 100% understand. What can I say about Crash Bandicoot? What can I say?
I mean, I remember playing the remastered version, and I, along with I know quite a few other people, were like, "Oh my god, I forgot how difficult this game actually was."
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I was doing some reading up. So Crash Bandicoot 1 is more difficult on the HD remaster or the remake or whatever you want to call it. Well, it's a remake, it's not a remaster.
It was a remaster. Yeah, it was a full remaster, like from the
From the ground
graphically enhanced. Yeah, it was full remaster. But yeah, it was. So why was it harder? Sorry to interrupt.
So it was to do with the shape of Crash and how the model reacted to the environment. So in Crash Bandicoot 1, if I remember rightly, Crash was represented as a square on the ground, whereas Crash 2 and 3, he was like a pill shape, and the remaster took the pill shape for all of them. So in the original game, you could edge a character ever so slightly over the edge more and land jumps slightly better because his model was bigger. I believe I read that. That seems like I don't have the source for it, but that's why the remaster number 1 is supposed to be really, really hard in comparison. But 1 and 2 are phenomenal. Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped is just that's phenomenal for me. And then you look at things like Crash Team Racing. It's really cool. It's really fun. Yeah, I've got nothing but good things to say about Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, and the new one, the 4th one, It's About Time. It's quite funny. I thought we had enough Crash, not in a bad way. Like, oh, it's fine, it's perfect, I love this. And then they brought that out, and they did a phenomenal job. It was the best of my childhood meets modern day gaming. I thought it was really impressive, and it kind of did spark off all this other stuff, but the Spyro remakes don't feel as good as the Crash ones. I've heard a rumour that we're getting some Croc remakes, which might be fun, but that as a game still wasn't as good.
Remakes?
Yeah,
Yes.
apparently Legend of the Gobbos might be being remade. It's a rumour at the moment. I'll play
I would so play that.
Yeah. But that was, back on the PS1, it was Croc, it was Spyro, it was Crash Bandicoot. Those were the platformers I played. Those were the big ones. And yeah, Crash to me still stands up.
I always just remember the ladybug in the boxing arena for Croc. Yeah. Alright. Okay. Number 4. So it got really hard to list my top 5, and yeah, so number 4 might be a little surprising for you, James, in terms of me. So I went with Pokemon. So
okay.
You might think that might be higher, but when you hear my top 3, you'll understand why it's not higher.
Okay,
yeah,
that
Pokemon.
does surprise me, because I thought Pokemon would be number 2, and then there's still something I thought would be number 1 that could potentially be number 1. But okay.
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Okay. Number 4.
For me, Gran Turismo.
I remember when we discussed the idea of doing a top 10,
Yeah.
you mentioned Gran Turismo. So, yeah, so okay. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie, racing games have never been my thing. I think actually, no, Burnout, I really enjoyed Burnout, but
Burnout was good fun.
That's not on my list, but Burnout was probably the only racing game I've really enjoyed. So, James, tell us why you love Gran Turismo.
So I've always been into cars, and Gran Turismo was the first game that I played, and it was that felt like it was like a proper racing game. Like it dubbed itself as a racing simulator, and it was when it was on the PlayStation. That was probably the closest thing you had to it. And as it's evolved, it's gotten incredibly accurate, and it's absolutely beautiful. Like the PS5 version of the latest one is so good looking, and if you just want to drive your favorite cars around some of your favorite tracks, it is really good fun. And yeah, it's been a staple pretty much of me growing up. There's always been a Gran Turismo that I've wanted to play, and there's always been, so it had to be on my list. But I also love the idea of like it's kind of lost its way, I think, recently. But most racing games like Burnout or something, like you're like, oh, jump into this heavily modified BMW and just cruise around this track. Where Gran Turismo went, you got £1,000. Do you want to buy your mum's Peugeot? And you just take that around Laguna Seca or something. It's like, it was such a weird thing. I think the only other game that's kind of done it has been some of the Need for Speed games, like the Underground series, where you start with an absolute wreck of a car. But I loved it. Like, as a kid, as being 12 years old, who gets excited about driving a PT Cruiser? Nobody. But Gran Turismo made you do it. It was really cool.
So yeah, fair play. I mean, what can I say about Pokemon, James? What can I say? I mean,
it should have been higher.
No, it shouldn't have. I think 4 was the perfect place for it to be, considering my top 3. So Pokemon. I mean, Pokemon has been with me for my entire life, basically. Well, not my entire life. It wasn't when I was born. But, in my childhood, Pokemon was there. Through my entire life, Pokemon has just been there. And I've enjoyed them. I've played every single generation of Pokemon that has ever come out. I even played... I've only played one Mystery Dungeon game. I do regret that, not getting any more of them, because I really enjoyed it. But I played Mystery Dungeon. I missed out on some others, but the spin-off. But the main series, I've played every single generation, all up to it. I've completed the Pokédex on a fair few of them, and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
And it's amazing. It's I just love it. And annoyingly, I wish Game Freak were better. Because they are so goddamn lazy. They are so lazy. Like in terms of like the new, I'm just going to talk about the newest one, right, for now. So Scarlet Violet is open world, right? You can do the gyms, and whatever in any order that you want, right? So, what do you think, James, that you would introduce in a game where you could do something in any order? 2 words: level scaling.
Yeah.
Yeah? Nope. No. So they didn't introduce it. So whereas you can do them in any order, you physically
also can't.
You also can't, because you could go to the hardest gym in the game, what they would consider to be the last gym, and your level fucking 12 starter is up against like a level. I can't remember what the levels are.
Their open world is equivalent to Fallout's open world. You can go anywhere, but you will die.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically. So
fair enough.
I mean, but regardless, it was a really, really cool idea. Like, don't get me wrong, Scarlet Violet was really fun. I really enjoyed it, but the game had and still does have a lot of performance issues, and that game came out in November last year, so we're talking 8 months on, and they still, or 9 months or whatever, however many months, and they still haven't properly sorted that out. They are just a bit fucking lazy, and it's really sad, man. Like, it's really sad.
Okay, well, question for you then about Pokemon. So, I've wanted to get into the Pokemon games for a while. I've only watched the animes.
I love the animes, by the way.
The animes are great.
Yeah.
What game would you recommend for me to play first? Where should I start?
I mean, you can just start. I would just start with the newest one, to be honest. I mean, you're not going to go wrong. I love Mega Evolution. So what you need to know is they introduce a new gimmick in each generation. So the latest generation, Generation 9, is called Terrestrializing, um, and so which is quite interesting. But my favorite gimmick was Mega Evolution. It was really cool. But Megas were just too strong, so
Fair enough.
that's kind of
Okay.
yeah. But yeah.
So just
So I
start with
mean,
a new one. Okay.
yeah, just start if you really do want to get into it. Just start with the newest one. You can't really go wrong. To be fair, just don't expect much in terms of frame rate. Sometimes it gets a bit bad. But yeah, it's really fun. I really enjoy Pokemon. I wish Game Freak weren't as lazy as they are. Um, but it's regardless, nostalgia and the fact that I still do enjoy them means it's number 4 in my list.
Okay.
So top 3.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my top 3 here, and I'm like, okay, what is on James's? So number 3.
Number 3, I will say it's time. Final Fantasy.
Oh, okay, okay. I knew this would be somewhere. Okay, so top 3, very interesting. For me, Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure you kind of. I love Ratchet and Clank. It's top 3. Top 3 for me. It is fantastic. I have enjoyed every single Ratchet and Clank game that I have ever played. And the latest one is phenomenal. Rift Apart was absolutely phenomenal. It was a beautiful game. The story was great. The weapons were great. Like, one of the big things for Ratchet and Clank for me is the humor and the weapons. The weapons are
Yeah.
stupid, and the humor is spot on. Like, it's a good mixture of like cheeky adult innuendos and
Mm.
just mid-level humor. It's just great. It's just a fun time, and it's just a fun game. That's why I love it so
Well,
much.
I bought all of the Ratchet and Clanks that I could play on the PS4 and PS5 not long ago, because my partner she played them when she was younger, so I bought them for her so she could play them on the PS5, but she hasn't gotten round to them yet, so there will come a time where I get to play them. So
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll be able to have a chat with you about my opinions on it, but it looks fun. You know, it does look very good, and I can understand why there's some love for that, and I'm looking forward to finding out for myself.
yeah. There's a lot of love for that. Right,
Final
Final
Fantasy.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I mean, I know you love Final Fantasy, and I do as well. It's been a huge part of both of our lives. Gameplay, obviously, very diverse, especially now, but it's always been really fun to play. And it's the stories and the characters. I'm more in love with the slightly older games, like 10 and 10-2. I loved 9, that sort of thing. The 7 remakes are great. I will play the new one. I haven't played the demo yet, so I don't know how I feel, but obviously I wasn't a big fan of was it 15, the road trip one? Was it 15, that one? Or was that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell you now. I've beaten 16. I have platinumed 16,
Oh, wow.
and I loved every second of it.
Okay.
And it is nothing like 15. The story is brilliant. I love the characters. I love the gameplay. It just feels the music is just chef's kiss, man.
Oh,
It's
good.
such a
Final
good soundtrack.
Fantasy has done some good music in the past, so
Yeah.
that's good to hear.
There is one boss fight which I will not tell you what it is, but it has the absolute best music, and it makes it feel so epic, and it's so fun, and it's probably my favorite boss fight in the game, just
Okay.
because that music lifts it so much. But yeah,
Nice.
sorry, carry on.
No, it's
Fantasy.
fine. As I said, I know that you're massively in love with this series as well. I don't have anything to say apart from it has been a big part of my life. I don't think you can go higher, not because it's bad, not because there are some games I haven't played, but because the last two they just mean more to me. That's literally why. So I think it's as high as it can go from no fault of its own, and I do love it. You know,
Just a quick, which if we talked about Final Fantasy, what's your favourite one?
I do have to
well,
probably.
you can choose more than one. It's fine.
No, I'm just gonna go straight down and say it. It's shit. It's rubbish. It's not one that anybody loves, but I do. I think 10-2 because I love. Yeah, we've had. Yeah, I know I've said this to you before, but it's the 10 characters are phenomenal, and 10 is great. But 10-2 is just, it's got a lightheartedness, but I clearly like it. I've 100%ed the game 3 times. You know, I clearly like it for whatever reason. It's not something that I can explain to other people. You know, it's essentially a game about 3 women who go around beating up creatures while getting changed. It shouldn't exist, but for some reason I find it fun, and I just have to admit that I have a problem.
Fair enough. Cool. Okay, number 2.
Yeah.
So you will never guess what my number 2 is. You would never ever. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it to you, but you've probably never heard of it. But what is your number 2? If hang on, I'm just gonna say, if this isn't what I think it is, then I know what your number 1 is.
Yeah.
But,
well.
Okay.
I'll tell you now. You know what my number 1 is.
Okay.
You
cool.
know what my number 1 is because number 2 you've already mentioned. It's much higher on my list. Grand Theft Auto.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So why? So for me, it was number 9, right?
Yeah.
Why is it your number 2?
So there's only one Grand Theft Auto I've not played, and that's because it was on the DS, which was the Chinatown Wars. I've played all the PSP ones, and I've played all the main console ones, and I absolutely adore them all. The stories are engaging, and it's one of the few games where you really do feel like you can do anything, and they just have great worlds. And GTA Online is a little bit disappointing because it is just a place now where you just pay money for things. But I did enjoy the heists when I used to do it with all my mates. But GTA 5 and most of the other ones, well, all of them, I could still come back to them and be like, yeah, I'll play this. You know, San Andreas is still phenomenal. I love the atmosphere of Vice City. I'm playing Miami. It's like, I can be Scarface kind of thing. There's just nothing I don't like. And soundtracks as well. The radio stations are iconic. They put so much work into it. And yeah, I love it. I really, really do. And my life would be, as a gamer, I think would be a lot worse if there wasn't Grand Theft Auto. And for a game that's about committing crimes, it's in all of our gaming cultures. It's one of the biggest franchises that's made the biggest difference.
Nice. So I just realised I never said what my number 2 was.
No, sorry, go on, yeah.
Yeah. So my number 2 is the Legend of Heroes Trails series. Okay. So just to break down what it is, so it's a JRPG series. There are currently, in terms of English releases, 10 games in the entire series. Okay. Now, in total, there's actually 12, but those extra 2 have not had an English release yet. They haven't had a Western release yet, and hoping they will, because I will be playing them. I'm playing the 10th one now. Came out a couple of days ago, and absolutely loving it so far. But yeah, so the series is the reason I love the series so much, right? So first of all, I discovered this series during COVID. Okay. So I saw that game called Trails of Cold Steel 4 was on sale, and I was like, okay, that looks really interesting. And I was like, can I play this? And someone was like, no, you will not understand what the hell is going on. It's number 4, you idiot. You need to go back and you need to play at least starting from 1, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool. And they were like, actually, what you should do is you should start from a game called Trails in the Sky, which is the very first game in the series. So I played it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. The world building is amazing. The story is amazing. The characters are amazing. Everything about that game was incredible. So I played the second one, and then I played Trails the third, and then I was like, okay, cool. I'll jump into the Cold Steel series now. I'll play that. I played through 1, 2, 3, 4. All of this did, by the way, or still all this during COVID. I played through all these games, each 60 hours plus during COVID. That shit got me through, right? That's why I've got so much love for this game. But what they've also done is like the first 3 games were like one arc. Then there's another 2 games which are another arc. And then there's 4 games, which is another arc, and then this one I'm playing now is like an epilogue to those first 2, so those second 2 arcs, right? So, but they all interlink. So to get a full like understanding of the world, you need to have played all these games. So when you're playing, spoiler alert. So when you're playing Cold Steel 4, you see characters and you're introduced to characters from the first 2 arcs. So if you haven't played them, you're like, who the fuck are they? Right, so, but it's phenomenal. It's so good. That's why it's number 2 on my list. I was debating put it as number 1, but you probably know what my number 1 is. So I just couldn't put it as number 1 because of what number 1 is. But Trails series is phenomenal. I love it so much, and I can't recommend it highly enough to anyone who likes a JRPG. It is beautiful. It's amazing. But yeah, anyway, so I could talk about Trails for hours, and I'm not going to. So let's move on to our number 1. So, right, I'm going to say what James's number 1 is, and James is going to say what my number 1 is, because we've pretty much guessed what our number 1 is by the basis of our list. So, James, what is my number 1?
I'm going to guess it's probably Final Fantasy.
You would be correct. Yours is Metal Gear.
No, it's The Sims. No, of course it's Metal Gear. Of course it's Metal Gear.
Of course it's Metal Gear. So, I mean, I don't know what to say about Final Fantasy that hasn't already been said. I love it. I've played every single one from 7 onwards. I've played 4. I haven't played 5 and 6, but I've played majority of them. 16 is fantastic. It's so good that my top 3 favourite Final Fantasies would be 8, 10 and 16 now, because it is so good. I enjoyed it so much.
That is high praise for the new one.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know what else I can really say about it. I love the world. I love the characters in each of the games. I love the gameplay. I love the music. I love everything. So, Metal Gear, James.
I know I've spoken on our Delta episode quite a lot about my love for Metal Gear. It's probably the same for you as for Final Fantasy. The world and the stories, I appreciate Metal Gear series is not for everyone. It's convoluted in places, and
that's saying something.
Yeah, it is. And Hideo Kojima is somebody who his writing, you either love it or you hate it. I don't think there's anyone who's like, it's just in the middle. But I can't believe when Metal Gear Solid came out on the PlayStation. I know there was the Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 before, but the one that really catapulted it massively was Metal Gear Solid. And when that came out, I don't think there was a game out there that had a story as big and as massive as that in that particular way, and touching on a lot of issues as well, and not shying away from a lot of political things as well. It was a big deal. It was a big eye opener, and again, a game where stealth, for me, again, that was something that wasn't really done. You might have some platforming games where stealth was like a little side mission, like, get from here without being seen and stuff. There wasn't a game that was all about infiltration, and I think every single game that they've done has a right to exist on its own. It all has different controls on some of them, or different, Metal Gear 2 plays the same as 3, but they are not the same game in any way, shape or form. The camouflage system of 3, I think, paved the way for modern games that that use similar things. Metal Gear has always been a trailblazer, a trendsetter, and a pathfinder, whatever you want to call it. It was there. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think that also is similar in a way to Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
Not only is each game different in terms of the world and whatnot, but actual the gameplay and the combat itself. So sure, you might have active time battles. You might have ATB in 7 and in 8, but the actual you had the junction system in 7 in 8, sorry. So that made it different to 7, and then in 9 you had different, it was different again, so that made it different to 8 and different to 7, and then 10 obviously introduced turn based.
yeah,
12 introduced the gambit system. 13 introduced was you could only control one character at a time,
yeah,
or you can only control one character, and it had the I can't for the life of me remember what the system was called, but where you could swap on the fly to your different.
Oh, wasn't the paradigm, was it?
It was the paradigm system.
Oh,
Yeah,
was it?
yeah. No, you're right. So you could swap on the fly, and then that just made it different. And then 15 was shit, so we won't talk about it.
No.
And then and then
I
16
mean, they
was
tried
just,
something new, didn't they? They tried and made a bad game. That was new for them.
yeah, they did. Wow, it's not new for Square making bad games, but
Well, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
but they, they did something different. And then 16 again, you can only control one character at a time, but it's there's no ATB. It's completely free flow. Well, not free flow, but it was more like Devil May Cry in terms of combat.
Okay. But that's
but
really
yeah,
cool
so-
for both Final Fantasy and Metal Gear, that they knew what they were, they knew their position, and they knew that, okay, well, there are other games that are imitating us. We're not going to stick around. We're going to prove why, we're the originals, I suppose. And it's constantly trying to go forward. Like Final Fantasy and Metal Gear could have just made the same game over and over and over again. And there are plenty of games in series that are guilty of that. But the reason why they're so
Pokemon.
good is, yeah. And if it works, though, it works, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But to give people, and both Final Fantasy and Metal Gear towards the end, some super dramatic changes in how the game fundamentally plays and runs, that actually must be very difficult, because you're trying to get new people in with something new, so you can't go, hey, remember this? It's this. And then the people who are fans coming back, they have to relearn and relove these games. And the fact that they do, clearly, every single time, or at least close to, says why they're so good. There are a lot of Final Fantasy games. If it was rubbish, they wouldn't exist. There was a lot of Metal Gear games. It's a shame how Konami and Kojima have left, and how the game series has died off. But when it was in its heyday, I can't complain about it. I'm looking forward to these HD remasters. How many times have I played Metal Gear 1? Loads. Can't wait to play it again. Can't wait to play the VR missions and everything. I'm excited by games I've already played. So I love it. I really am. I love it.
I mean, this. To be honest, I completely agree. I don't think I can add any more to what James just said there. So I think that just about brings us to the end of the episode. It's been a bit of a longer one today, but we've had a lot to discuss. I do hope you've enjoyed, what our favourites in terms of our top 10 gaming franchises. If you were to give it a thought, would you put any of those on your list? What would be your top 10? Because everyone's top 10 is going to be different. Some of you might not like RPGs, some of you might prefer first-person shooters, stuff like that. So everyone's list is going to be different. So what's in your top 10, or what's your number one? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. On top of that, also, if there's anything you'd like us to discuss, please let us know. We again would love to hear from you, and we're happy to talk about anything. As I said at the start of the episode, nothing is off the table. But if you have enjoyed us, again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, let us know in the comments. But from myself
And from me,
thank you very much for listening, and have a lovely day.